Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner, coming to you with another design team project for Scrappy Tales. This time I'm going to be using the A7 Lantern Pop-Up Basic Shape Panel add-on. Yes, that's a very long name. This is basically one of the dies that is an add-on for the new Lantern Pop-Up, but I'm not going to use it with the Lantern Pop-Up today. I decided I wanted to do something a little bit different because I love the shape of, I love the panels. These are perfect for like window panels, so I thought, well, yes, that would work on a lantern, but I wonder how it would look as basically the windows to maybe a house or something on the front of a card. So I've cut out actually 6 of these. I've got 3 that have some double-sided tape on the back of them so that they're going to stick together just to give a little bit of dimension. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out from the last collection the Witch's Brew, because I want to make a Halloween card. Tomorrow is Halloween and I want to get another Halloween card in before everything's done. So now what I need to do is create my scene. So I've got a piece of cardstock out here and I've put the windows about where they're probably going to want to go. And let me go ahead and put all of this on my Misty so I can figure out exactly where I want to stamp my witches. I think I'm probably just going to use one, but there's so many additional things in this set that you could use. I do want the windows kind of centered in the card. And I'm not going to really worry too much at the moment because I can reposition everything when I'm putting everything together in the end. But this is going to give me a general idea. Okay. So we've got this witch here that's working with the cauldron. And because of that, I think I do want all of this to be moved up a little bit. So I'm going to move it up to right about an inch. That way I can stamp off the edge. And my sticky grid, this is from a Nakapa cutting mat. You can get them on Amazon and they work really well for this. They don't work for my Scan and Cut because they don't have the registration marks for my Scan and Cut, but it does work great as a as a DIY sticky grid. So I'm gonna put her in here. I think I do want her off to the side here, so that'll look cool. So you're going to be able to see her through the window. I think that is going to look neat. So let me go ahead and arrange a little bit more of this. Let's see, we've got a shelf. I'm going to put the shelf off here. And this is similar to another card that I did, just some of the design, but it's just the same pieces. So I've got a shelf there, and I think I want to put the spell book on it this time. And I think I'm going to add the spell book later. And also, I think what I'm going to do instead, I guess I'm changing my mind already. I'm going to put a couple of shelves. I'm going to go ahead and lay this one down a little further down. So I have room. There we go. So we'll have room going above it to put a second one because there are a lot of fun little images that we can add to this Halloween-y card. Okay, so I'll take my frames off and put those to the side and go ahead and get this little scene stamped up. So I'm adding a little bit of removable adhesive to the back of my panel that I've got stamped out. Just adding it on there because I'm going to use the magnets to hold the stencil down. Now I'm not going to do stenciling over the whole thing. I'm going to try to avoid most of my image, but I wanted to have a kind of something in the background. I did the same kind of thing on a similar card, similar at least design for the witchiness of it, on my live a couple of weeks ago. And I love the way that the background turned out even with just playing. This time I'm picking a brick stencil. I think this is from My Favorite Things. Not 100% sure, but anything that you've got in your stash should work. And now I'm going to just grab out some ink and a blending brush. So I think I want to do some browns, maybe some blacks in here. And I'm going to cover most of this background. Not all of it, but most of it. Actually, I do want some darker, so I'm going to go in with some black. I think I can also go back over, after I remove the stencil, I can go back over with one of the browns Let me get a different one because I want to be able to use both. There we go. That's going to look kind of cool. So I am going over with both brown and black, and this is going to kind of grunge up the background behind her. I'm going to try not to go too much over my little witch here. I do need to go in between and stuff too. And when I'm using markers, I'll be able to go over some of this, so it's not going to be as big of a deal. But I do want some of the colors to be able to be a little bit lighter. And I am liking this color there. That looks good for a background for the wall. It's going to be real grungy wall. And a lot of this is not going to show because we're going to have it all behind my little frames, right? Okay, so let's remove the stencil and see what we've got. That looks pretty decent. I will go back and clean my my stencil later. And this shouldn't move around because I do still have that adhesive on the back. I'm going to come back in and kind of go back over a lot of the brickwork so we don't have white grout. And of course, if you wanted all of your colors to be real nice and clean and not have any of this overlapping like what I'm going to have here, then I would highly recommend that you mask everything off. But I decided not to take too much time on this one to do that. I mean, this is a Halloween card, so if things are a little bit messy, it's totally fine. I love doing Halloween cards because of that. You get to experiment and try things out and see what works and what doesn't work. I do think that masking off the witch at least would probably have been a good idea, but you know what? I'm gonna go with it. Okay, and now I'm going to just rub off that strip of removable adhesive off of the back, and we're ready to color this card. Okay, so now that everything is all colored up, I am going to figure out exactly how much of the image I actually need. So what I'm doing is I'm going to tape together the ones that have the release paper on the back, because I figure that's going to make it so I don't damage the frames at all. I'm going to just tape those together and hope my washi tape actually sticks to them. And then I'm going to pick these up and put them over my image, so it'll tell me where the outline of the frame needs to be. Okay, just having to be very careful because it's not really wanting to stick to this stuff. And the thing is, I have different washi tapes, and some of them will rip my paper and some of them won't, and I don't recall which one this one is, so I'm just going to be careful. Okay, so here we go. Now this is an A2 size panel, so I'm going to just decide where exactly do I want to cut the panel so that it'll fit perfect behind my little windows there. And then I'll just grab out a pencil and draw kind of a little guide along the four sides, just enough so I'll know where to cut it with my paper trimmer. Because I don't want to cut it with the dies, because if I cut it with the dies, of course it's going to cut out all of those bits inside, and then I'll have to try to paper piece it together. Okay, actually it is staying in place. I'm going to go ahead and bring out my paper trimmer and just be careful not to cut into my frames, right? Okay. Okay, so I'm being very, very careful there. And if in the end I have to trim it down just a smidge, at the end, you know, after I've already got everything pretty much done the way I want it, you know, after having everything glued in place and all that stuff, if I need to trim it down a little bit more, that is perfectly fine. And I think I am probably going to need to trim it a little bit more too, but that's, like I said, that is okay. I'm trimming off the excess. So that is kind of how that's going to wind up looking. I think that is pretty cool. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take these little frames off. And then I can adhere these top ones over the top so I can get them positioned onto my card. Do that, we just have to take off the release paper. I'm going to take it off of one end and not the other so I can make sure that I have it all perfectly lined up. And then just kind of fold this down so I'm protecting the adhesive on the rest of my frame, right? Line it up at the bottom where we've got the release paper still on there. See, like that. Line that all up. Make sure everything is in place, which it's not. There we go. Now it's in place, and now I can press down, tap down to make sure that it is in place correctly. Now I'll go ahead and take the rest of the release paper off. A little bit at a time to make sure that that all stays in place. And all that this is doing 2 layers, is going to give it just a little bit of dimension for that window frame. And now I've just got to do that with the other 2. So next I'm going to start adding my little frames on here. I'm just adding some liquid glue to the back of these. You could also use some double-sided tape on there like I did on that one piece. I decided not to do it on the other just because I know me and I probably would have it on there crooked if I did that. So adding it on with a little bit of a liquid adhesive onto the final card is probably a better idea for me. And I'm just going to line that right up with the edge. And it should go about where I want it, because we already made this right about the right place, right? And I can already tell that I'm going to need to trim it off at the top because that part is a little bit thicker, a little bit wider than I really wanted. But that is totally fine. Now I'm going to add the other 2 on. So I've got liquid adhesive on the back. I'm just going to line it right up with the edge of my other frame, my other panel. And that goes down perfect. And now I just need to add the last one. Now, one thing I am going to do when I get done is I'm going to go over this with a little bit of anti-static powder, because when I was putting these together, it didn't get them 100% lined up correctly, and that is totally fine. It's just going to, I can see a little bit of the adhesive there. And another idea that I may do would be to maybe add a little glitter there. So let's see what it looks like without the glitter first and see if I want to actually do that. Because that might be kind of interesting. I do have some of the Tim Holtz black glitter from last year that I haven't used up, so that would probably be pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with this last one. I'm going to line it up right with the edge of the other window frame. There we go. And now we've got our window where we can see our little witch inside her crafty room, doing her thing. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this down because it wasn't quite small enough, but that's better than it being too small, right? Okay, so that I think is going to look perfect. And I think I am going to try a little bit of that glitter and see what I think. Because I don't know if you can see it, but there is a little bit of adhesive shown. And I just need to be careful not to make a humongous mess with this. I think that's going to work out pretty good. So I'm going to add some more of that on there, and it's going to just add a little bit of glitter. I'm going to wipe everything down and brush it off with my with a dry paintbrush, a dry brush, to take care of any kind of excess, because I don't really want a ton on here. I'm going to add just a little tiny bit of glitter. I was going to try to save it, but if I try to take that plunger out of my glitter bottle, it's not going to work. It's going to go everywhere. So this is just going in the trash. Gather up all that extra glitter. And now I've got another paper towel that I can do the same thing. And I'm, of course, going to go back over everything later with, with a vacuum. Okay, so let's brush off some of that extra glitter. And I think just having that little bit of shine there makes it almost look like there might be glass panes that you can just barely see. So that, I think, looks kind of cool. Okay, so now we just need to decide on a background to go behind this. This takes up most of the space on an A2 size panel, but not all of it. So we need a panel to go behind it and then get this mounted to a card base. So I'm taking a piece of pattern paper. This is from the Happy Hunting paper pack from Scrappy Tales. I'm going to use one of those as our background. So I'm just going to adhere everything down with some liquid adhesive. The papers from Scrappy Tales are basically glossy. I mean, they're gorgeous. But because of that, sometimes my tape runners don't really want to stick that well. So I am using liquid adhesive for this. And I'm covering the entire front of my A2 size panel. Now I can glue this panel down onto the front of the card. Again, I'm going to use some liquid adhesive for that as well. Right there, right into the center, and try to line that up straight as I can. And now all we need is a sentiment. So all I had left to do was just add a sentiment to this, and I picked out the Witching You a Very Haunted Halloween from that same stamp set, and I'm inking the edges a little bit, not a ton. And I'm using one of the browns. It may be the same brown that I used on that brick background, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just picking one, and it doesn't really matter. I think it is the same one. Okay, and now I'm going to add a little bit of foam to the back to pop it up a little bit. And it's also going to make it so that it will basically seem flat and not be bumped because of the little bit of dimension that those window frames do. I also noticed a couple of things that I did not finish coloring when I was coloring up my background, so I need to add a little bit more color to the back. I forgot to do her lips, I forgot to do her hair, and I forgot to do the stir stick or spoon that she's using in her pot. So I need to get those done, right? And I think I want this one, yeah, I think that'll look fine under, basically in that window and underneath our crystal ball. That'll be kind of cool, right? Okay. So right about there. There we go. We've got a little bit of dimension there now. And let me grab out a couple of my markers real quick. This MB4 is a dark brown, so I'll add that to her spoon. And then for her hair, I've got her face as green, but I think I'm going to go with a dark, dark green for her hair. And a little touch of green on her lips too. There we go. And that is going to finish up this card. I think it turned out super cute, and I am amazed that I was able to use something that would be considered a Christmas die. And to be honest, I was thinking, what am I going to do for my first project using these new stamps and dies? And I thought, actually, I think it's yeah, stamps and dies. Wasn't sure what I was going to do, and then I thought, wait a minute. Those would work perfect for window frames. So I think this turned out super cute. You guys be sure to check out the next video to see out what else I do with the new dies and stamps from Scrappy Tales, and check out this playlist to see other projects that I've used using their products. You guys have a wonderful day, and remember, if I can make it, you can too. Have a great day.